Now, our next guest is responsible for breaking down the patriarchy one joke at a time through her award-winning podcast, The Guilty Feminist. Please welcome comedian Deborah Frances-White to the podcast. Deborah, it's so great to have you on the desk, and your podcast begins with a line, "I'm a feminist, but," and then it's usually followed by an admission of guilt. So what is it that makes you a guilty feminist?
Well, I remember at the end of 2015, the beginning of 2016, where there was this new wave of feminism coming up and it was all so exciting. But I thought, I'm not sure I'm good enough. Like, I want to be involved, but am I good enough? And so one of the first things I ever confessed was, I'm a feminist, but one time I went on a women's rights march and I popped into a department store to use the loo and I got distracted trying out face cream. And when I came out, the march was gone. Like, just gone. And I remember it really well. I just had to put my sign in a bin and put my sunglasses on and just, like, walk the other way. And then Sandy Toksvig came on my show and she confessed that she opened the very first London Women's March. Do you remember the big London Women's March after Trump got in? And she said, I opened the whole thing. And then she said, I don't like marching, I'm too short for it. She said, I get lost, you know, I'm down here. And so she said, I just went for Claridge's for tea. And she said, I've never told anyone that before. So the great thing about it, confessing it, was that so many women, I thought, I'm going to get kicked out of the feminist club. You've probably got the same concern.
Yeah. No, I'm a big member.
well known. I've heard about you. Yeah, Tom the feminist from Australia, they call him.
The innocent feminist.
nothing to confess.
Not guilty.
Nothing to confess. Yeah, well, it's harder for you to confess, isn't it? Without just being struck off entirely. I assume you like this job. Hundreds of thousands of feminists started to come out of the woodwork and go, I also spent 4 hours last night watching Say Yes to the Dress instead of watching the documentary about suffragettes.
Now, that's me, because I love that show so much. Also 90 Day Fiancé, but that's another conversation. What I would love to know from you is that why do you think that women feel guilty about being either too feminist or not feminist enough?
I think, Georgie, it's the history of the world.
Yes. Good. Your answer, world.
It's women are encouraged to feel guilty at work because they're not home with their children, or guilty at home with their children, you should be doing more in your career. You're not a good enough daughter, you're not a good enough mum, you're not a good enough friend. Have you done any self-care this week, Georgie? You need to be doing self-care. Why are you not doing enough self-care? And so feminism's just become another thing for a lot of women to feel guilty about. No, I'm not doing this well enough. Yeah. And actually, listen, if you turned up for the march, even if you did leave at half-time, you turned up to be counted, and next time you'll go a bit further. So I think, for me, exfoliating the guilt, exfoliate it, and so it doesn't become shame.
I like that. I like that.
A lot of cosmetic metaphors.
I know, that's right. It works for me, though.
That's right, that's right. You'll hear more of those when you come to the show. I'm sure you're coming to the live show in Australia, right,
Well, is there going to be face cream that I can test?
I mean, I will make sure there is some for you.
Well, excellent.
That's high on his list of demands. And that's our podcast tour. It does kick off next month, and we're big on this podcast. What do you think it is that resonates with people?
Honestly, I think women are thirsty. There's not a lot made for and by us. And the live shows, it's always been a live show, except for lockdown when we were forced onto Zooms. Yeah. It's always been a live show because we just love having this big audience. And the listeners at home hear this big live audience laughing and cheering and getting angry about stuff and getting shocked about stuff. And it just feels like we've got this big, live, exciting community. And the big shows we're doing in Australia are going to be so much fun. It's a combination of chat, stand-up comedy and music. So imagine the project, but imagine it, you know, with stand-up comedy and music, and then live with a huge, huge audience.
You almost said imagine the project, but good.
Imagine the project, but imagine all of you were women. See, that would be exciting, wouldn't it? That'd be some fun times. We've got Cal Wilson, we've got Celia Piccola, I mean, just some Steph Tisdale, just some amazing comics. And Grace Petrie, who's a brilliant protest singer who's coming out from the UK for the whole tour, and local feminists in all of the different cities. We're coming to Perth for the first time, Canberra for the first time.
Oh, God, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
And
a lot of these people are friends of the project, so it's not hard to imagine it being a version of the project. Head to our website for all the information on Deborah's The Guilty Feminist Aussie tour. Deborah Frances-White, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.